And hello and welcome to this edition of the Running with the Herd podcast, powered up by Herd Nation, a part of the 247 Sports Network. It is the National Signing Day and Season in Review podcast, the last one of the 2025 calendar year. My name is Aaron Coleman alongside Josh Stowers, my co host. Josh, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Absolutely. And we're going to welcome the members of the class of 2026, long snapper commit Riley Winkler. Riley, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Drew Williams here joining us as well with his Marshall hoodie. Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Yes.
Appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. We also have Tristan Lester here joining us as well. Tristan, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. We'll be joined by Dawson Hill here momentarily, but we got a full house. As you can see on the screen, you've got five people in here. You also including three of the class members of 2026. We are streaming live right now on YouTube as well as X. So if you want to send the guys a shout out, if you have a question for Josh or myself, or a question for the fellas, you can chime in on this podcast as well. Like I said, we're streaming live on both YouTube and X, so be sure to check that out. The archive information will be said later in the show. Josh, before we get into the fellas here, 2026, start of a new year, year two under Coach Tony Gibson. These are three of the class members that he'll be having in the fold for next year. Just talk a little bit about, just what it's like to be in year two. I mean, I know it's going to be a step up from year one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the follow up here after a while. Season two, I think, will have a much different look. You've already seen some changes in the staff. So that's interesting in itself. A couple departures and a couple additions already. It will be interesting to see, how Coach Lambert's, obviously he's been here before. We've seen what he can do with the defense when he has the right guys. It'll be interesting to see his impression on the defense. I mean, obviously Tony likes to run the 3-3-5. Brad's not really done that himself. He kind of runs that 4-2-5, sometimes with a little bit of a hybrid in it. So it'll be interesting to see those two mesh. I do really like the fact that Brad's obviously he's a traveled guy. I mean, he's called defenses at a lot of different places. He has a ton of experience. He's like I said, he's called defense here, and in 2020 he had one of the top defenses in the country at Marshall. I really like him. I think it's a culture fit. I think he's right. He's about the right things. He's about all the same things that Tony's about, which is always key. Offensively, Coach Smith's back. We kind of saw what we should probably expect maybe in with the offense this season. I think it's always going to be a run heavy type thing. Given the chances, there were times when we threw the ball downfield. Floyd Lacey had a really good season for us. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Floyd's gone, so that gives opportunities for guys like Drew maybe to step in and make some plays. We'll see what happens in the fall. It's with the portal, obviously, creates a lot of transition as well. So far, we've done a really good job, retaining guys, guys that we think are going to really contribute next season. We've done a really good job with that. We've added a couple guys, obviously 3 of the guys here that we're seeing on screen. The portal is just now getting ready to get going. It'll run obviously all the way through, up into fall camp. So, you have those chances to add guys who can provide depth and immediate impact. So, it's only up from here. We obviously the season, year one didn't necessarily go the way we had planned, but the margin of error was was really slim. I mean, this year, we lost 3 games by a total of 6 points and 4 games by a total of 11 points. So I mean, it wasn't like there was a big gap in terms of having success versus not.
Mm-hmm.
If a couple things go our way, obviously we're setting with 8 or 9 wins instead of 5, and we're looking to prepare for a bowl game. So. And possibly even maybe have played for a conference championship. So, like I said, it's not like we were so far off. It's just taking a step forward in year 2, and I think Tony and his guys will do that.
Yeah, and speaking of year 2, speaking of taking a step up, let's bring in the athletes that we have that you see on the screen here to talk about what led them to Marshall, what they look to contribute in 2026. We'll start off with a young man from Washington, D.C., St. John's College High School, Drew Williams, athlete. First of all, Drew, congratulations on signing with Marshall, and welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. First of all, Drew, what led you to think that Marshall University was the right place for you to continue your academic and athletic career?
I feel like the coaches, they gave off a family environment, the coaches and the players. When I went down there on my official visit, it felt like home. Like everything that they told me was everything that I was going through in my high school. So it felt like home, and I knew I wanted to go here.
Drew, talk about which coaches, and I'm not sure who your immediate recruiter was, but just talk about which coach that you talked to the most in terms of like your lead recruiter and the conversations that you had leading up to your commitment.
Coach McDowell, we spoke, if not every day, every other day. That's my guy. I feel like we connect on a personal level, not just a coach and a player level. Coach Smith, he was reaching out a lot, and even Coach Gibson himself, he was reaching out a lot. So I mean, when it feels like coaches believe in you, it's like you don't want to go anywhere else. When coaches want to give you that opportunity that you grind for, that's how you know where you want to go.
Yeah, and one of the things that a lot of recruits talk about when they talk about Marshall Drew is the brotherhood, like the team camaraderie, like a lot of that family atmosphere. I mean, it's something that a lot of coaches and a lot of players talk about, but at Marshall, it's a real thing. And, just talk to me a little bit about like some of the connections you made. You talked a little bit about the coaching staff. Just talked a little bit about like, just getting to know some of the guys that are there now and some of your classmates in 26?
Well, getting to meet these two guys that I'm on the stream with was dope. I remember meeting Tristan. It's like we all clicked off instantly. Like it was like a brotherhood as soon as we met. And then I mean some players like Jalen Parker, Carlos, the quarterback. I mean those guys they're just dope guys and they want to see you strive for the best. So when it's a brotherhood like that want to see each other eat, it's only one way, and that's the win.
For sure, definitely. And you mentioned that Jalen Parker, he was the first portal recruit under Tony Gibson, and he did a lot of recruiting himself, like trying to get guys to come to Marshall and all that. Like real, what I'm saying, real chill guy, real, outgoing guy, just trying to get guys bought in. I know that this year for the Herd didn't go quite the way that the team expected, but Coach Gibson talked a lot about like buying in and everything. It's not going to be a real hard thing for the class of 2026 to buy into what he's selling.
Yeah, I'm very confident in this new recruiting class that's coming in from Marshall. I
Mhm.
feel like we're all on the same page and we're all chasing after a Sun Belt championship.
Absolutely. And when they get Drew Williams to come to campus here in Huntington, what kind of player, what kind of person is Marshall University getting?
They're getting a guy who's going to come in and put in the craziest amount of work. the long nights, the early mornings, someone who's dedicated, team first guy, and someone who's coming in to win, someone who's coming in to dominate.
Absolutely. Next, we're going to bring in Tristan Lester. We're going to bring him in. Tristan, first of all, congratulations on signing with Marshall, and welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it. Kind of the same question I asked Drew. What was it about Marshall University that said, hey, this is the kind of place that I want to be at for the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, the moment I walked in for my official visit in June, it just felt super genuine, from the head coaching staff all the way to just the analysts. I mean, everything just felt real, and they weren't really faking anything, and they were just giving you the transparency and the honest truth that you'd want to hear as a player. And I think Coach Hawley, me and him built a quick connection, as well as Coach Morrison. I mean, from the start, ever since they offered me, they always kept in contact with me, always just checking in on me and my family, and just felt like a welcoming home. I mean, even Coach McDowell on the offensive side, there's offensive coaches texting me and just checking up on me and my family. So it just feels like a really genuine culture that I really want to be a part of.
Hey, Tristan, talk to us about maybe, obviously you play in the secondary. Have the coaches kind of talked to you about where they see you? I mean, like at corner, maybe at nickel, at safety, having the idea of possibly just moving around. What kind of conversations have you had with them there?
So I talked with Coach KJ and Coach Gibson. They said they want me to play safety and nickel, so they'll probably have me moving around a little bit at those two spots.
With the 3-3-5, you have a lot of options there too, because I mean you can play, with a nickel, you can kind of play down close to the line of scrimmage, and then obviously at safety, even just the same. But I just know some of your highlights. It seems like you've been playing around the line. You're comfortable playing around the line of scrimmage, and playing towards the ball and ball hawking a little bit, just in some of the highlights that I saw of you.
Right, yes, sir. I play nickel at Milton, and the same way they use me at Milton is the same way they use their nickels at Marshall. They just run off the edge. They're very versatile players. They can play the post. They can also come down and spill. And I mean, it's just a really fun position to play because you can do a lot of things, and you have a lot of trust in your DC and head coach just to make you help you make plays.
When Tristan Lester gets to Marshall University, don't know if you're going to be a January graduate or you're going to be in for the fall. But once you hit campus, Tristan, what are the coaching staff? What are they going to get with Tristan Lester?
I actually am enrolling in January, but the coaches will definitely see a person that's going to put God first, and will definitely just be a hard worker, and definitely just they can be someone to count on, and always just like they're going to be able to just see me as just a really high-level person, and just going to be able to just count on me to work hard, and just I'm going to have the trust of my teammates. So when I come in there, I mean, my goal is to just build chemistry with the older guys, and just let them know that they can just count on me, even though I'm a young guy coming in early. So I think that's what they're expected to see.
All right. Next up, we're going to bring in long snapper Riley Winkler to the podcast. Riley, welcome, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a great opportunity.
For sure. Coming from Detroit, the 313, where my dad's from, actually. What was it that led you to Marshall University, Riley?
I would say the biggest thing for me about Marshall is the entire city, the entire staff loves football. They're all locked in to the brotherhood of Marshall University. Mm-hmm. That's just an environment that I really want to be in. I want to be somewhere that, football is just loved throughout the city. And I think I found that in the city of Huntington.
Like I said earlier, that's one of the things that I think you'll see, kind of like what you're touching on, Riley, is just the culture. I think that's something that, going from what we had before Coach Gibson to year one to year two, you can just see, obviously by the additions of you three and others as well, just hearing guys talk about things in a certain way. It's not about, me or the stats or anything like that. It's about the brotherhood. It's about the team. It's about winning. It's just a culture thing that Tony is continuing to grow. And that's the one thing that I love about that guy is, and I think, Drew and Tristan mentioned it as well, is just how genuine they are in that. And just in some conversations that I've had with Coach Gibson, I mean, that guy's like insanely real. And, he will be straight with you, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So, and I can appreciate that because I'm a pretty blunt guy myself. So I can appreciate that. And, I love hearing you guys talk about, the culture and things like that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see that culture being brought in. And one of the things that Coach Gibson has done is he's made a lot of good, positive connections with some of the in-state coaches and players alike. And with that, we're going to bring in Dawson Hill to the show, in-state guy from Nitro, West Virginia. Dawson, welcome to the podcast, man.
You're muted.
Hey, I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate you coming on. Dawson, talk to us a little bit about what your commitment to Marshall was like. I mean, obviously, being from Nitro, obviously not that far away. Just talk to me a little bit about what that commitment to Marshall University means for you.
It means the world. Ever since I was 6 years old, all the way growing up, it's been my dream school. So, I mean, when I got that phone call from Coach Gibson, it was life changing, and I knew it was it for sure. There was no doubt in my mind. And the culture.
Go on, sorry.
And the culture that Coach Gibson has brought to Marshall is unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and I'm so happy and thankful to be around it. So I'm gonna work my butt off every day and just get ready to be there.
Dawson, correct me if I'm wrong, but you took a prep year in this past season. What was that like?
No, I did not take a prep year. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, my bad. I was thinking you took a prep year this year.
No, it was my first year of football, though.
Okay, that's what it was then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's all good.
We are here in the Runnin with the Herd podcast, powered up by Herd Nation, part of the 247 Sports Network. Aaron Coleman, Josh Stowers, Riley Winkler, Dawson Hill, Tristan Lester, and Drew Williams here in the podcast. We're streaming live on X as well as YouTube. If you got a shout out for the guys, you could send it to them. You could also send Josh or myself any questions. We're streaming live. We'll be on until about 8 o'clock. So, we are here for you as we put a spotlight on the class of 2026 Marshall University. And, the four guys that you see on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, are guys that you are going to be proud of, not only on the football field, but off the football field. And that's something that Coach Gibson has put an emphasis on. You would say so, right, Josh?
Yeah, like I said, it's just a culture thing, man. It's a huge difference from, like I said, the administration, prior to Tony's arrival, loyalty and culture were not as much of an emphasis then as they are now. And that's just something that, like I said, every time you hear him talk, that's what he talks about. It's the culture and things like that. And that's when I talk about, the additions to the staff and the roster, that's what he's looking for. I mean, he's going to go after guys that there's a mold that he's looking for. And obviously, athletic ability is a big piece to it. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to take very many Josh Stowers out there and win football games, but when you can find guys like this that have the same mindset as he does, you can go out and win some football games that way. So, that's the thing. It's just, Tony being from West Virginia, I mean, I lived in Illinois for about 2 years of my life, and don't get me wrong, the people out there were wonderful, but it was just different being home. And I think that's a sense that I think, other people, when they come to West Virginia, that's one thing about the people of West Virginia is you get a sense of that. And, hearing these guys talk about their visits and and it's not just West Virginia. It's Huntington, it's Marshall. I mean, it's such a tight knit area, tight knit community. I mean, obviously the plane crash plays into that, but it's more than that. It's just it's the school, it's everything. I mean, like, community, thrives off the university. I mean, these guys should be, very proud, to wear that across their chest, and I'm sure they are and will be. But yeah, it's just Tony fits that is the thing, and he looks for guys that do that as well, and I have no doubt that these four young guys can do that.
Absolutely. Riley Winkler, Drew Williams, Tristan Lester, Dawson Hill. Thank you guys once more for joining us here today. We certainly appreciate your time. I know you guys, have been busy. I know that we had to kind of move some things around to get this in, but I appreciate you guys. Happy holidays to all of you, and we look forward to talking to you again once you guys are into Kelly Green and White next year. We appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, guys. Happy holidays to you as well.
Appreciate y'all. Happy holidays.
I appreciate it, man. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all. There they were, 4 members of the class of 2026. If you missed any of this podcast, it'll be up in archive form, up on both the paid board of Herd Nation as well as the free board of Herd Nation. You will see both of those. You will see the archive of both of those there. And eventually, Josh will get it on the Facebook pages, and it should be good to go there. Your host is no longer a member of the Zuckerberg family, at least for the time being, but that is subject to change, of course. So, with that being said, let's turn our attention for the next 20 minutes or so to the 2025 season. It's been well documented. It's been well talked about. 70 plus new players, completely new coaching staff. The 2024 team won the Sun Belt Championship. They got on a heater. They won 8 in a row. Previous coaching staff left. A lot of the players left with them. But one of the things, and I know it's been talked about a lot too, is culture. And I know that the culture now is more we instead of me. And it started out with that first presser that Coach Gibson had, where he talked about that. He talked about we're going to play with an edge. We're going to play with an attitude. And the season did not start the best in the sense of the team went 0-2. They had a tough loss between the hedges against Georgia, which was expected. Obviously, they're a team that's in the college football playoff, possible national championship contender. I could possibly see those guys winning the whole thing. They're strong on both offense and defense, efficient quarterback, etc. Missouri State. The Bears were a Conference USA team. They were a team that transitioned from the FCS to the FBS. Marshall got out to a lead. They gave up that lead, and they ended up losing by 1. Now, you look at those two games, they didn't solidify who the quarterback was. Fast forward to the Middle Tennessee game, and they figure out exactly who that quarterback was. And in the Eastern Kentucky game to even themselves at 2-2. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, 4-star recruit from Atlanta, Georgia, transfer from Florida and Syracuse, comes in after the coaching staff sees what both Ja'Kai Long and Zion Turner do. And Carlos comes in and takes a hold of the position. And Josh, talk to me a little bit about that out-of-conference slate and how Carlos with his feet and his arm kind of solidified things under center.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot you can say about Georgia. I mean, it's just a David versus Goliath type situation. I mean, the odds were obviously not in our favor, and it turned out that way. Missouri State, you kind of touched on a little bit. Just the uncertainty at quarterback, gave us a problem. We went to Georgia. Jakai started. That did not go the way we'd hoped. Then you kind of filter in, Zion and the later portion of that game, and he saw a few moments of success. So we went with him in game 2. That didn't really play out the way we'd hoped either. Obviously, that game left a really bad taste in everyone's mouth. And then they switched to Carlos going into game 3, and I think the biggest thing that you saw with Carlos, versus the other two, was he was much more decisive in what he was going to do with the ball. Whether it be running, whether it be throwing. He was, and maybe that was an experience thing. I mean, he hadn't seen the field much more than Zion had. So maybe a little bit of a talent thing as well. Who knows? I mean, obviously, the level of opponent, with Eastern Kentucky drops off significantly versus the first two as well. So that helped. But nonetheless, like I said, he seemed a little bit more decisive and able to run the offense that Coach Smith and Tony, were looking at. And, he saw success there, went down to Middle Tennessee, like you said. Got the win on the road, which is always a weird place for us to play.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime you can win down there in Murfreesboro, that's a plus. And then as the rest of the season, and you kind of saw him settle in. Obviously there were still inconsistencies, across the board, whether it be offensive, whether it be defensive, and like I said, our margin for error this season was not that great. I mean, we needed to play, not obviously not perfect football, but we needed to play above average football to have a good season. And we just did not do that enough. And, there were moments when the offense was clicking and the defense struggled. And there were moments when the defense was clicking and the offensive struggled. So, special teams for the most part, all
Pretty
season long
consistent.
was solid.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you had Lorcan, who set a school record for, single season field goals. For a freshman, that guy was just an absolute stud. Totten, was very good, punting the ball this season. The return game, kick return game, I think maybe could have been a little bit better, but with some of the rule changes and things like that, it's just it's so weird. I mean, punt return, I thought was really solid. I thought Floyd had a really good year,
He did.
back there. And not just as a returner, I thought Floyd was obviously our biggest playmaker this year. I mean, outside of Carlos,
Absolutely.
Injuries, and I won't necessarily say, maybe not necessarily injuries, but getting banged up, slowed both of them at times. And when those two slowed down, so did the offense significantly. The run game, Carlos was our leading rusher this season, so that kind of tells you a little bit. Not that we didn't see moments from other guys that with success. There were times when Michael Allen looked good. There were times when Anton Roberts looks good. There were times when Justin Williams-Thomas looked good. There were times when Joshawn Barbie looked good. But none of the four, ever really took a hold of that starting position. Maybe that was because of injury. Maybe that was because of, just whatever. I have no idea. But, we just never really saw consistent play back there from a single guy. So that obviously affected us a little bit too in such a run-heavy offense. And then the offensive line, I thought, about 3/4 of the way through the season, I felt like we started, we kind of moved some guys around and Christian Richter specifically at tackle. And I think at that point we were kind of fixed on who our starting five were, and then then he got banged up, and it kind of shuffle things back around. And Jalen Slappy got thrown out there at tackle for the last couple games, and he was primarily on the interior all season long. So like I said, just the season as a whole was just kind of not jumbled. I mean, that's probably not the right word to use, but just a lack of consistency was probably what hindered us the most in all facets of the game.
Yep.
And again, like I said earlier, 4 of our losses were about a total of 11 points. So, I mean, you're talking, again, a very, small margin of error to where just if a few things go our way or we create, points for ourselves or take away points from the other team, I mean, we're looking at, 9-3 possibly. I mean, 8-4 possibly. And we're, like I said, and we're preparing for a bowl game next week. So, it's if we can correct some of those mistakes. I mean, there were a few mental mistakes just the same, which again points back to the culture. It's just a mindset thing, and I expect us to improve there. I think given the timeline of last season, the way it ended, and with so many departures, I do think we had to take a couple flyers on some kids that maybe we may not have in some cases. And not to say that there were any bad eggs necessarily. That's not what I mean there, but just maybe not guys that were, schematically fitting to what we wanted to do, both offensively and defensively. So I expect that to change as with another season under Tony's belt. And I really do think we are heading in the right direction. I know that may be tough to swallow coming off a 5-win season. But we have a few more guys that are obviously with some decisions to make in terms of coming back. But if those decisions go Marshall's way, I really expect us to have a foot in the right direction going into 2026.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, Coach Tony Gibson being a defensive coach, obviously there were some standouts there. Boogie Trotter with the interceptions, smallest man on the field in most cases, had the biggest games in some cases. You could point to that Old Dominion game where he had 2 in one game, took one back to the house. You look at the Sun Belt slate. There were some guys that made some solid defensive plays. Javay Gilmore, he came back for 2026. He will be one of those guys who's going to be counted on next year. And let's see here. You have Daryl Sweeting, who had an interception. He will be back this coming season. Jabril Alameen, who had one of the signature plays where he forced the fumble, and then Caleb Clark Glover, who was also coming back, recovered that fumble. That was in the Georgia State game. So, I mean, we talked about it a lot. I've talked about it with a lot of the other guys in the Sun Belt as far as radio play-by-play and everything. When you talk about, the Sun Belt as a whole and the Sun Belt East being extremely tough, I mean, you look no further than the conference slate. And they had so many close losses. They had Louisiana, which was a close loss. App State was a close loss. Georgia Southern was a pretty close loss. I mean, obviously, Adrian Norton had like the late touchdown catch, and the onside kick didn't go our way. But, that's another guy that's coming back on the offensive side who will be heavily counted on is Adrian Norton, transfer from University of Akron. But when you look at this team, and we only got about 15 minutes left, when you look at this team, Josh, obviously, they were starting to piece it together. I think they're headed in the right direction. I think you're going to see a pretty significant leap from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we have some open spots. I mean, we had some graduations there, so that's obviously something we have to deal with. And but that's that's where the portal comes into play. I mean, like you can go out and it's basically free agency. I mean, like and that, as much as it pains me to say this, is you may have to open up your checkbook a little bit and figure that out, and what we can actually afford. I hate saying that so much, but it's just the truth nowadays. But I think we need to get better at receiver. Like I said, Floyd had a really good year, and Adrian for the second half of the season, I really thought he played well, and Tamarez, I may have said that incorrectly, but he had some moments where he kind of flashed, but again, consistency there was throughout the season, I should say, was probably the biggest issue. So I think we need to try to go out and obviously find another Floyd if we can. Maybe find one other guy to play opposite of Adrian. That way, it kind of frees him up a little bit more. Offensive line would not upset me to go out and find maybe one or two guys. Obviously we lost Eric in the middle. At center, we have a couple guys that played a little bit here and there this season. On the interior, maybe able to move around a little bit. You obviously have Tariq's coming back. Jalen Slappy's coming back. So you still have, like I said, a few openings. Eric graduated. Shamarcus Adams graduated. Tyler McDuffie. He should be. I think he returns as well. Sorry, my mind went blank for a second. But anyways, I do think that's another position that we need to get better at. I mean, and be more consistent at, and a lot of that too, maybe just be the scheme and new guys in a new system and with a new offensive line coach and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
There were obviously a lot of moving pieces there, like you said earlier. That can easily create inconsistencies. On the defensive side of the ball, I think we have quite a few bodies coming back up front. I would maybe like to go out and get a guy, and I realize the idea of the 3-3-5 is to for the guys up front is to kind of not really control the line of scrimmage, but at least control the presence of the front. That way it gives the linebackers and the defensive backs room to roam around. I do think we need to be better there. Katron Evans graduated. Tyus Martin graduated. Both those guys played quite a bit this year. We do have, a couple, like I said, a couple other guys coming back that are big-bodied guys. I maybe would like to find someone that maybe could rush the passer a little bit. I mean, again, I understand the idea is a little bit different than just your normal defensive line, defensive end type guy, but it would be nice to at times be able to get some pass rush, from the front three. At linebacker, I mean, like you mentioned, Javay's coming back, Jabril's coming back, a couple other Jalen, a couple other guys returned. Jalen left, Jalen graduated, but we still have Chase and Clark will be back. My mind just went blank. Number 27,
Lewis.
the kid. Yes, Cannon Lewis. My mind totally went blank. Sorry. Cannon Lewis will be back. Obviously he's familiar with the system. The one kid that set out primarily the entire season, but played the last couple games. Jalen Marshall. He should be back. I think that may be
you could apply for a medical.
Maybe a waiver situation possibly. So, like I said, we have some bodies, but there are, I another season will allow growth, and I think that gives us the opportunity to win a few more games. But I do think we need a few more guys. Obviously, Boogie, losing Boogie hurts. I mean, he was our biggest playmaker on defense. So I mean, we need to go out and find a guy that can replace him. It's obviously like you said, Daryl Sweeting comes back, Tayshaun Jeter comes back. So both of those guys played quite a bit on the outside. Caleb comes back in the secondary. Woody Smith, I'm thinking will come back. Haven't seen anything, saying otherwise. So I mean, he's a guy that's played a lot of football here. Yep. We have a lot of bodies, and we've honestly went from a team that lost so many bodies to a team that we've retained a lot of bodies. So like I said, that in itself creates consistency, but we just need to find some guys, some dogs, maybe, if you will, to plug into that, to push that consistency in that play a step further.
For sure. And 2026 light schedule game. They have not released the Sun Belt slate. I am not sure when they will do that. But as of today, December 17th, the Thundering Herd will be playing at Happy Valley against Penn State. Head coach Matt Campbell, coming from Iowa State. They will have a home game against Middle Tennessee. Should be a solid win there. Obviously, we have a history with them going back to our Conference USA days. And then a little bit of a revenge game as the Herd travels to Missouri State. So those should be some solid games there. They still do not have an opponent for 2026 as far as a home game. They have 2 road games, obviously the one against Penn State, and they have the one in Missouri State. So they just need one more home game. Hopefully, Athletic Director Gerald Harrison and company will get that announced here soon. And as far as the Sun Belt slate, we'll have Coastal Carolina at home. We'll have Georgia State at home. App State at home. On the road with Georgia Southern, James Madison, and Old Dominion. We do not know who our crossover games will be in the West. I know that it was a one-and-done deal with Texas State as they are going to the Pac-12. Good luck to them. It would probably have lost its luster in 2026, but it would be interesting to see if Southern Miss comes to Huntington in 2026. I mean, obviously, the head coach of the Southern Miss Golden Eagles is now the head coach of Memphis. So, like I said, that would have lost its luster. I think Keith Gill dropped the ball there, but that's just one person's opinion. It would have probably been the highest rated TV or the highest rated football broadcast in the history of the Sun Belt had they played it this year. That's just my opinion. It would have got a lot of views in West Virginia and Mississippi, respectively, and possibly across all the Sun Belt states. But, hey, I digress. However, we do not know who our crossover opponents will be in 2026. That will be announced at a time to be determined. But overall, I think that the Herd's heading in the right direction, and we should be good to go. We're about to wrap it up here, and with the last 5 minutes or so, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the Marshall fans, Sun Belt fans, Herd Nation, the city of Huntington, West Virginia, state of West Virginia. I'm going to be stepping away from the podcast after this episode, 2026. You'll probably see Josh and somebody different hosting the podcast this year. Life took some turns for me positively, and I'm going to be stepping away to focus on those things and focus on the next generation of Herd fans, which is my son Carter, who's in the next room. And just concentrate on doing some things with him. So I just wanted to say thank you to all the fans and supporters of the podcast, supporters of the movement. Just going to go back to being a regular fan. You might see me, chime in on various forums here and there just to add my 2 cents to see about how the boys are doing. But just wanted to say thanks.
Dude, we appreciate you. Obviously, I like that you're going out on your own terms. So I wish you well, and once we figure things out moving forward, we may snake you back in here for a special guest appearance or something like that.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. I'll do that. All right. For Josh Stowers, for our athletes in the National Signing Day portion of the show, Drew Williams, Riley Winkler, Tristan Lester, Dawson Hill. Special thanks to those guys and their families. Congratulations one more time to them. For all those guys, for Josh Stowers, I'm Aaron Coleman saying so long. Thanks for listening. You can catch the archive of it on various platforms, the paid board of Herd Nation, as well as the free board of Herd Nation. Special thanks to publisher Chris McLaughlin for giving me the opportunity since 2018 to host this podcast. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks to you guys for listening once again. And as always, go Herd.